Olivia Hart was never the loudest one in the room. At 23, she had learned to make peace with her quiet nature, observant, thoughtful, and far too forgiving. Her younger sister Madison, on the other hand, was the center of every spotlight. At 21, Madison was effortlessly charming, with perfectly curated selfies and a social media presence that drew more attention than Olivia had ever received in her life. Growing up, the contrast between the sisters wasn't just visible, it was weaponized. Madison was the favorite, the golden child who never did anything wrong. Their mother, Valerie, doted on her endlessly, treating every mistake she made as a harmless quirk. Olivia, meanwhile, always had to prove herself, not for praise, but just to be noticed. Their father, Daniel Hart, was the only one who ever truly saw Olivia. He was a quiet man himself, the kind who built his fortune through patience and strategy. To him, Olivia's quiet strength was something to be proud of. When he passed away 6 months earlier after a long illness, Olivia lost not just a parent. She lost the only person who had ever been in her corner. So when she got the call from her mother telling her to come home for a family dinner on her birthday weekend, Olivia felt a small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe they remembered. Maybe this time, they were doing something for her. Maybe things would be different. She arrived home with a small suitcase and a hopeful heart, pulling up to the grand colonial house she had grown up in. Laughter and music floated through the windows. The driveway was packed with cars she didn't recognize. Her heart skipped a beat. Had they thrown her a party? She walked through the front door, heart racing with a mixture of excitement and disbelief. The living room was decked out with silver balloons and pink streamers. A huge banner hung over the fireplace, reading, "Happy birthday, Madison." Madison. For a second, Olivia thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe they got the banner wrong. But then she saw the cake. It had Madison's face printed on it. Guests were gathered around her, laughing, toasting, singing. No one even noticed Olivia standing there in the doorway. She took a small step forward, her fingers clutching the strap of her bag tightly. Her mother finally turned around and waved casually like she'd just returned from the grocery store. "Oh, you made it," Valerie said flatly. "Just in time to see your sister blow out the candles." Olivia swallowed hard. "Today's my birthday." Madison, already holding a glass of champagne, turned to face her with a smug smile. "Oh, sweetie," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Dad told me you were an accident. Technically, I'm the only one who was planned. You should be thanking me for finally giving this family something to celebrate." The room erupted in laughter. Polite, forced, uncomfortable. But no one defended Olivia. She stood there, completely still, her face pale and eyes wide. She didn't say a word. She didn't cry. She didn't run out. She just stood, frozen in a moment that would replay in her head for years. Then, quietly, she turned around and walked out of the room. No one followed her. No one cared. But what none of them realized was that tomorrow, everything would change. The next morning, the house was quieter. The guests were gone, and the only remnants of the party were a few stray balloons dragging across the floor and half-empty wine glasses on the kitchen counter. Olivia sat alone on the edge of the backyard deck, staring out at the garden her father had once taken so much pride in. It was overgrown now, neglected, just like everything else he'd cared about. She hadn't slept. Her mother hadn't even apologized. Madison had posted a video of the party, tagging it, "Best birthday ever, family first," conveniently cropping Olivia out of every frame. Olivia saw herself in the corner of one video, barely visible, looking like a stranger crashing someone else's life. At noon, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Out stepped a sharply dressed man with a leather briefcase, the family's lawyer, Mr. Claremont. Olivia stood up, confused. Valerie greeted him at the door, already wearing pearls and a pressed blouse, as if dressing the part of a widow might suddenly win her something. Madison floated down the stairs moments later in silk pajamas, clearly not in a hurry. She kissed her mother on the cheek and whispered, "Let's see what Daddy left for his princess." Olivia followed them into the living room, where the air felt heavier than usual. Mr. Claremont opened his briefcase and laid out the papers, clearing his throat before speaking. As executor of Daniel Hart's estate, "I've been asked to read the contents of his final will and testament," he said. "Per his instructions, both daughters and Mrs. Hart must be present." Madison smirked confidently, legs crossed. Valerie was all poise and control, but Olivia noticed the tremble in her fingers. Mr. Claremont began reading. "To my wife, Valerie Hart, I leave the remainder of my personal jewelry and $10,000 from my life insurance policy. Valerie, I hope you find happiness. I also leave you a letter, in my handwriting, for you to read alone. It will explain everything." Valerie blinked, her face cracking for the first time. That wasn't what she expected. Madison sat up straighter, lips parting in anticipation. "To my daughter, Madison Hart," Mr. Claremont continued, "I leave a single item, a framed photograph of our family taken at her high school graduation. In that photo, I saw the daughter I once believed you could be. I hope one day you will remember her." The room went still. "What?" Madison laughed nervously. "That can't be right. Where's the house? The company? The money?" Mr. Claremont didn't even flinch. "And finally, to my daughter Olivia Hart." Everyone leaned in. "I leave full ownership of Hart and Company, my business. I also leave her this home, all assets tied to my estate, and the remaining balance of my accounts. In addition, a trust fund in her name will activate on her 24th birthday, with investments and holdings totaling $3.8 million. A choked breath left Valerie's lips. Madison stood up. "No," she hissed. "This is a joke. Dad wouldn't do that. He loved me. He said I was his favorite." Mr. Claremont looked at her coldly. "He wrote this will 6 months before he passed, and he recorded a video, in his own words, to ensure no one questioned his intentions." He opened a laptop and pressed play. There was Daniel's face, tired but strong. He looked straight into the camera. "If you're watching this, I'm gone. And if you're still sitting there thinking you can twist my memory to suit your stories, think again. I loved both my daughters, but only one of them ever stood beside me without asking for anything in return. Olivia, you never needed to shine to make me proud. You already were everything I hoped a daughter would be." Valerie stood abruptly, furious. "He was sick. This isn't valid." Mr. Claremont turned calmly. "He was of sound mind, and this was notarized. Legally, this will stand." Madison's voice cracked as she shouted, "She doesn't deserve any of it." She was barely even around. Olivia, who had remained quiet the entire time, finally stood. She walked toward Madison slowly, her eyes calm but unreadable. She didn't shout. She didn't gloat. She simply leaned in and whispered loud enough for the room to hear. "You said I was an accident," she said, "but everything you tried to steal, it was always mine, and deep down you knew it." Madison's lips trembled. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. And then Olivia turned and walked out of the room again. But this time, she wasn't leaving empty-handed. The silence in the house didn't last long. Less than an hour after the will was read, Madison stormed into Olivia's room, her face red with fury, holding her phone up. "You're trending," she spat. "People are actually feeling sorry for you. What did you do, pay some sympathy bloggers?" Olivia was calmly folding her clothes into a suitcase. "I didn't ask for attention, but I guess people saw what kind of person you are." Madison scoffed, pacing. "Don't act like you didn't enjoy that moment. Sitting there smug while Dad ripped everything away from me." Olivia paused. "You mean everything you thought you were entitled to?" Madison lunged forward, snatching a scarf from the suitcase and throwing it across the room. "You're not better than me, you just got lucky. Dad was probably senile by then. He didn't know what he was doing." Olivia looked at her calmly, then pulled something from her bag. It was a small notebook, her father's handwriting on the cover. He wrote this every week. Notes, reflections, things he noticed. He left it for me. I haven't read most of it yet, but maybe you should. She handed it to Madison and walked out, not bothering to wait for a response. Later that night, Olivia sat in her father's old office, surrounded by his books, his scent still clinging to the leather chair. She opened the second drawer, the one always locked, and found a manila envelope with her name on it. Inside were receipts, emails, and photos. One in particular made her chest tighten. It was a picture of Madison and their mother sitting with a man Olivia didn't recognize. The timestamp showed it was taken 3 years ago, the same month her father's heart condition worsened, and he started pulling away from the company. On the back, Daniel had written, "If anything happens to me, this is where it started." Suddenly, the pieces started falling into place. The business trip Valerie claimed Daniel took before his final collapse, he never went. He was home, in his study, panicked, pacing. Olivia had seen it but didn't understand it then. Now it made sense. She rushed downstairs, the envelope in her hand. "Who is this man?" she demanded, shoving the photo in her mother's face. Valerie froze. Her eyes darted to Madison, who had followed close behind. "I don't know what you're talking about," her mother said stiffly. "The night Dad collapsed, he called someone over and over again. This man's number is on the phone log." Valerie grabbed the photo and tore it in half. "Don't you dare accuse me of—" "I'm not accusing," Olivia cut in. "I'm stating facts. Dad was looking into missing company funds. He found something, didn't he?" For the first time, Madison looked pale. "You're lying." "I'm not," Olivia said quietly. "And now that the company's mine, I'm reopening the internal audit he started." Madison's face turned to stone. "You wouldn't." "I already have." 2 days later, Olivia met with Daniel's old accountant. Together, they went over financial reports and hidden accounts. It didn't take long to uncover it. Over $600,000 siphoned over a 2-year period. The transfer destinations? Offshore? Registered under fake shell names. But the IP address used to approve the transactions? Traced back to this very house. Madison and Valerie were both summoned for questioning. When the investigator laid the evidence on the table, Valerie broke first. "It was supposed to be temporary," she cried. "He wasn't supposed to find out." Madison, eyes wide with horror, whispered, "You said he wouldn't notice." Valerie turned to her daughter, voice shaking. "You were the one who wanted more. The car, the parties, the influencers, I did it for you." "No," Olivia interrupted. "You did it for yourselves." The scandal exploded online. "Rich heiress and mother embezzle from dying husband" became the top headline on every news outlet. Sponsors pulled from Madison's brand deals. Valerie was indicted for fraud. Their family name, once respected, became a punchline. A month later, Olivia stood in the same living room, now quiet, now hers, watching movers carry out boxes labeled with her mother and sister's names. They were moving out. Court ordered. Neither would see a dime of the inheritance. And Olivia? She wasn't just the quiet girl in the background anymore. She stood on the porch as the last of their things disappeared into the truck. Madison glanced back once, eyes hollow. Olivia didn't say a word. But just before Madison stepped inside the car, Olivia called out, "You wanted my party, my spotlight, my life. You got none of it. Because it turns out I wasn't an accident. I was the only one he trusted." Madison looked like she might respond, but instead she got in and shut the door. And Olivia? She turned, walked back into the house, and smiled for the first time in years. As Olivia watched her family drive away, a new chapter of her life began. She realized that everything she had been through, the pain, the betrayal, the years of being overlooked, had shaped her into someone far stronger than she'd ever imagined. No more pretending to be someone else. No more hiding in the shadows. The house was hers now, but more importantly, she had something far more valuable, her freedom. If you've enjoyed this roller coaster of twists and emotions, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. There's always more to uncover, and who knows what the next story might bring.